Hi, everybody. Today we have with us Nancy Satterwhite. Nancy is a private practice therapist. She's an LCSW doing private practice, and she has agreed to take some time out to talk to us about what she does, what she loves about it, how long she's been doing it, um, what that's all about, and every other advice she wants to give us. Okay. So thank you, Nancy, for taking the time out to spend with us. We so appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Lori. I am so glad to be here, and I'm honored that you asked me to share some of the things that I do and I love about social work. As you mentioned, I am a licensed clinical social worker. I'll give you a little history about how I began my career. I started out, as many social workers do, in a group home. I was a child care worker in a group home for abused and neglected children. That was while I was working on my undergraduate degree. A lot of times I worked the knock shift or the night shift and would go to class during the day. And I really loved working with the children and youth who were going through so many kinds of life challenges. And so I did that for quite a while as I was still finishing school. Once I finished school, I started working in public health. I did that for about a year. I provided case management to those who were transitioning from prison, who had HIV and AIDS. And I did that until an opening came up for Child Protective Services, which many counties refer to what we normally call CPS as something else. Like Riverside County refers to it as Children and Family Services. And so I went to them. I worked as a worker, a line worker, a supervisor, and a manager. And I actually loved the work that I did. I was able to work with children, youth, and families who experience all kinds of issues. Of course, the children and youth who were involved in the system, it was because abuse and neglect, but then also working with their families, because at the very basis of social work, we believe that people can grow and change. And so I liked working with families, providing some of that psychoeducation. As a social worker, you wear so many hats. There's a lot of case management that's involved. Of course, you're assessing for safety and risk at all times. You're a teacher at some times, a counselor, a surrogate parent, a mentor, all of those different things rolled into one. And I really appreciated the training ground that I had when I worked for the county in those various capacities. I left briefly after working for the county to become a director of a nonprofit agency that provided services for women and children who had issues with substance abuse, domestic violence. They needed parenting, life skills. Some of them needed shelter, mental health services, transitioning services, all of those things, which was a nice other experience for me to be able to use my social work skills. But I missed children and family services, so I kind of went back and I worked for the county again for a number of years and used my skill set, provided services there. I really enjoyed mentoring and being a supervisor in that role. And another position came available for me where I work full-time now as a county consultant. There are so many opportunities in the field of social work that it's unbelievable. Still in child welfare, but now I'm more on the workforce development, implementation science side of things, working with the state to help counties to implement different policies and procedures and things like that. I did also work as a psychiatric social worker for a number of years in a hospital setting on a multidisciplinary team serving adults with various mental health issues. And that was a locked unit. That was a good experience as well. And then because I guess I like to do a lot of things. I like to stay busy. And so once I became licensed, I did some private practice work, and that's what I love to do. That's kind of where I found my passion. And so I still do some of that. I'm not seeing as many direct clients, but what I mostly do right now is provide supervision. For anyone who has completed a Master's of Counseling program or a Master's of Social Work program and wants to become a clinician, there's this whole process that you have to go through to get number of hours. And in order to get those hours, you have to be supervised by someone who is licensed. And that's what I do. So I get to put back on my mentor hat, my supervisory hat, share some experiences, help people get to think through how to problem solve. And that's what I really, really like about social work, whether I'm doing that with direct clients or I'm doing that with staff or with those who are going to become licensed. And so I do that right now. I have 8 interns who work for me, or who I supervise, I should say, under my license. And I consult with a nonprofit organization to be able to provide this licensure. And so although I'm not directly assigned these clients, I'm responsible for them. So I am providing the therapy services through the interns who work under my license. And at this time, it's really those who have been through a lot of trauma, mostly sexual assault type of trauma, children and adults. The youngest child, I believe, that is under my supervision right now is probably 9, and the oldest person is in their 70s. So there's a wide range of issues and demographics that that I work with at this point. I get a lot of joy in knowing that people can change. People are so resilient, and it's a matter of helping them to realize that where they are, and helping them to critically think through what they can do to live their best life, whatever that looks like. And they define that because they're the expert on their own life. So that's what I really, really enjoy. I enjoy seeing that change. I enjoy seeing people who have experienced such trauma go through the process of healing, and to understand that one incident, or could be multiple incidents, as we know, complex trauma has, but that they can change their life, and that one thing doesn't define them. That's what I really love about my job. And I love the versatility that the social work profession also brings. You can do so many things. You probably won't get rich becoming a social worker, but you can at least have a good life. You can make it what you want it. And that's kind of most of what I love about what I do. Some of the things that I struggle with as a social worker, being kind of the perfectionist, maybe, that I tend to be, is that I want to move people forward faster than sometimes they are ready to move. And that's not something that you can really do. People have to make up their own minds, and they have to get to a place where they're going to want to make those decisions. And so our role is to be the support, be the cheerleader, encourage them on as much as we can, but we can't put our own values and beliefs on how they want to change their lives. So I still have to slow myself down sometimes when I think about that. Sometimes seeing the potential in a client, and for whatever reason, whether they are not willing, or they're just not able to see themselves and put in the work to be able to do what they need to do to make their life a little bit better, and have increased satisfaction. When you can see it for them, but they can't see it for themselves, that's a struggle. And then probably the other big struggle for me, I try to be a rule follower as much as possible, but sometimes bureaucracy and policies and procedures can get in the way of doing what I think is, some real work. And there are sometimes unnecessary barriers that I think are in the way, but we still have to, as a professional, work within those guidelines. And so sometimes that's challenging. I find myself bumping up against those rules and policies and procedures as much as I can, but trying to stay within them so that I don't inadvertently make things more difficult for those that I work with as well. The other thing that I wanted to share is that I'm a big fan and believer of a quote that is Charles Swindoll's, and it's life is 10% of what happens to me and 90% of how I react to it. I really embrace that and live that for myself, and I try to encourage others to move through life with that type of mindset, because if so, then we know that anything is possible. And that's the mindset that I try to have as I'm doing my work and going about being a social worker. Some advice that I would give to those who are thinking about a career as a professional social worker is that it's such a rewarding profession. And there are many, many opportunities. And I tried to share some of the different jobs that I have had, and there are many, many more. You might not know the impact that you may have on someone's life, but always remember that you have a significant one, and the seeds that you plant will come to harvest one day. You might not see it, so you might not get that that instant gratification or that satisfaction or know what happens in someone's life. But just remember and know that you do have such an impact. Every single opportunity and chance that you have to meet with someone, approach it like it is a last time, or it could be the only time that you meet with that person, and just give them all that you have, and help them to think about things that they can do in their own life to instill hope and to make it better. And I think that if you kind of see life as that in your career, then you'll have a long, fulfilling one.
Great, great. Thank you. I'm going to switch our view here so we can both be seen. Thank you, Nancy. Those were some um, great experiences and some great words of advice. Um, I love how you shared some of your struggles in terms of the bureaucracy and the way things happen, and how yes, we need to push on those lines, and we need to push on those barriers some, advocate for change where it needs to happen, for the benefit of the people we work for, but not do anything to hurt them. So that was
Right.
great. That was great. Well, I appreciate your time so much and your expertise, all that you shared with us. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing with us.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.